Welcome back to Paper Labyrinths. I'm Brendan.
I'm Nick.
Our guest today is a writer in Brooklyn whose work has appeared in Clickhole, The New Yorker, and Joyland. She writes fiction, comedy, comics, and games, most recently Hot Streak, a mascot race betting game by John Perry and CMYK, for which she wrote deep lore for the mascots. With Simone Norman, she co-hosts the horror reading series Horrored at Topos 2 in Brooklyn. Sophie Abromowitz, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here floating in digital ether space with both of you. Nick, do we want to start by talking about the dream you had about me?
That's a very fascinating called shot, but it was not about you.
No!
I didn't
specify.
I said I was having a Paper Labyrinths related dream, and I can understand why you thought it was about you, but it wasn't.
Oh my god!
Sorry to not yes and you on my own dreams, but
one.
You brought it up on the show, so I guess I'm gonna have to shoot you down on the show.
I'm gonna have to invade your dream like a spirit of vengeance now.
Nick, we're really trying to go for a little bit more of like a back and forth conversational kind of thing.
Oh,
so
sure.
if you could pick up the ball and run with it a little bit more, I'd really fucking
appreciate
it.
Tell me about the dream you had about me, Nick.
Yeah, come on.
If we have the Nick's dream segment every show, then I can start playing ball.
I cannot imagine a worse segment to have on a podcast than where one of the hosts tells you about one of the dreams they had.
I'll just make sure to have stress dreams about recording podcasts, and we'll never run out of content.
Fantastic. Sophie, would you please teach me how to be funny?
No. Next question, please.
See, Nick, that's the kind of like conversational back and forth I'm really going for here.
I didn't go to comedy school, so I just didn't learn all these tricks to get in like a funny repartee going back.
Do you think comedy schools and clown schools hate each other?
God, I mean, I'm arguably a comedian and I hate clowns, so in that sense, yeah.
Is being a clown the same kind of funny as being a comedian? This is not even a joke. I've never considered this question.
To take this question seriously, so
thank you.
To the best of my knowledge, clowning is a like physical comedy and acting discipline that involves sort of extremely heightened emotion and full body sort of physicalized representation of that emotion. Clowning involves a lot of like failure and persistence against failure. So there's like slapstick is a big part of it. I think there's like French and Italian clowning disciplines, like Commedia dell'arte is a very sort of old and complex clowning discipline that has different archetypes. There's a whole concept about like masks, where you sort of like kind of come up with the essence of your clown that you sort of externalize.
I've heard that from a clown college student that every person has several clowns in front of them, any of which can be expressed once you know how to tap into those tools.
you can spec into different clowns. I think you can respec at any time. I find clowning really annoying. I think it is like a very...
Why?
I think it hybridizes well with other like acting and comedy disciplines. Like it can add sort of a real like, full body performance element to comedy, sketch, improv. But clowning on its own is just kind of a blunt instrument to the forehead. And often in sort of more like improvisational clown settings, basically because it is a discipline about like persistence, whatever like gets the first laugh, often the performer will just like drill into that as much as possible and just like juice all of the juice out of that as they possibly can. And so you're just in this like It's sort of like, Instagram targeted ads where if you like linger too long on like a
Your clown
technical school.
algorithm is getting too
Exactly,
specific.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you like that. You really like that." And then they're like, "You like it. You like it. You like it. You like it." And you don't like it, but you're
Interesting.
still there. You're stuck there.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole element of clowning where that just feels very kind of like performance arty Andy Kaufman-esque to me, and I don't get Andy Kaufman. I don't think he's funny. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe you had to be, on 70s cocaine, but I'm not.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense. I
Yeah, it does make sense.
the mask. Well, the masks thing is interesting to me because it just. I think in any other discipline it would be, well, you have multiple characters. You're a professional wrestler. Sometimes you're a skeleton guy, and sometimes you're just like your guy with, tights on. But the mask sounds like it's a little bit simpler than that. Maybe it's not, like a character is just like a set of I don't know, punchlines
it's
almost.
like a well for reaction. It's something to kind of continually fall back on, of like, this is the lens that you are sort of looking at and thinking about and approaching everything through.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of out of my depth. I've said everything I know about clowning.
That's a great deal more than I know. So why does stand-up comedy work for you in a way that clowning doesn't then?
I mean, I am a writer first and a performer second. I've done some of the UCB and IO like improv and sketch classes.
Sorry, what are those?
And when UCB was and I think is kind of the big like improv and sketch theater here in New York and LA.
Is that Upright Citizens Brigade?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which is one of the great money-making schemes of our time.
I was just talking shit about Amy Poehler 5 minutes ago.
Well, one cannot talk enough shit about the UCB for.
I guess I'm completely out of the loop on why we don't have to go down this train, but I definitely don't know what this is.
Exploitative labor practices.
Oh, sure. Okay. Normal
creating,
stuff, not fun.
Yeah, right. Creating a sort of cash cow kind of chokehold over a lot of people's like hopes, dreams, and passions, and then parlaying that into cheap labor and expensive classes with the money mostly sort of like going to the people at the top of the operation.
Yeah.
As in many industries.
Classic. Yeah, I was gonna say very time-worn fleecing of people that want to do something with their creative urges.
UCB, I think, was one of the first places to announce absolutely catastrophic layoffs at the start of the 2020 pandemic.
Oh,
But they were not the last.
No, they were not.
But so when I perform, often it's very tightly written, like characters or sort of solo sketch. And I think I am like if I can be self-aggrandizing, I am a like very good writer and a serviceable performer. And I think I am a like good delivery system for my own material, but I don't necessarily have that kind of natural ease and comfort that I think really good stand-ups have, where they are just very like present and reactive. I think like good stand-ups are really just like constantly sort of feeling and reacting to and shaping the sort of mood and energy in the room. And I feel a lot more sort of comfort and safety when I sort of have all my like, language kind of polished within an inch of its life and all my beats kind of mapped out, and I have a lot of like certainty about like how I take the sort of like emotional physiological component out of it for myself and really just kind of like lean on the material while like creating room for myself to sort of play with timing, add flourishes. And yeah, I mean, sometimes like I've done bits that are a little bit more kind of like the train just sort of starts rolling and keeps rolling. There's a bit I used to do a while ago where I just had a PowerPoint going behind me as I sang My Way by Frank Sinatra, and it was about how I was having a stroke on stage and my body was dying and I had no control over what I was doing, and it was just asking the audience to take care of my affairs and sort of execute my will, and then I went through my will.
That's good.
Yeah, it was fun. I think I named my iguanas Gun Germs and Steel, which is one of my favorite jokes I've ever written because it's really fucking stupid.
I appreciate a joke that you were like, wait, is there something deeper to this? Am I like missing on something? And then you have to just conclude, no, that's just that's it, and it's funny. There's no like deeper connection, which I like.
No. I know I spoke disparagingly before about a blunt hammer to the forehead, but those are also my favorite joke formats.
I mean, everyone just likes to wield their own blunt hammer, and then you look around, you're like, well, everyone else is in a different discipline is a fool for doing things that way. I meanwhile, I can paint.
These clowns.
Yeah, I'm not clowning around. I'm putting a mirror back to society with my blunt hammer.
I think having a blunt hammer in your arsenal is perfectly fine. I just don't have a whole lot of patience for like someone with a funny nose and a tramp hat like coming down off the stage and like leaning over me like I'm a disobedient dog or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, no,
I would hate that.
I don't want to be part of the act. Leave me alone.
I'd start scratching.
I'd pee my pants.
Yeah, go limp, pee your pants.
Go full pop.
Start mumbling My Way as the urine just soaks down your pants. Yeah.
Consult your guide for which clowns you try to scare by getting big, and
right,
which
exactly.
clowns you play dead around.
Earlier, when you were describing, setting up a bit and just letting it roll downhill, so to speak. I mean, it sounds like just doing comedy writing, which because I know you do that, maybe is kind of like drawing a conclusion, but it sounds like you just enjoy doing just like the writing part of comedy more than the performance side of things.
I definitely enjoy performing. I think what I get out of writing, and I think what was kind of the big disciplinary breakthrough for me, was shifting from trying to come up with what I thought other people might find funny to what I find funny, and just really, as much as possible, try to amuse myself. And hope that if I am amusing myself, that will have sort of secondhand knock-on effects of amusing other people. And luckily I am a osmotic conduit for culture, and so my preoccupations reflect the preoccupations of those around me. And so what I find funny sometimes overlaps with what other people find funny. But I think because of that, like, the process of comedy writing is just like, I mean, I sometimes describe it as just like stimming. Like, it's just me trying to like make my brain ripple, and I find that really fun. And sometimes there's a kind of problem solving quality to it. Sometimes there's a kind of like, how do I, thread this needle or come up with a sort of like most economically worded version of this joke? Where do I put the specifics or the proper noun so that it sort of like lands with the rhythm that I want? Or, one of the things that I feel like I kind of specialize in is like, how do I kind of pick a really precise detail that kind of like gestures at a whole, or like kind of convey something with like a few simple brushstrokes, and then also like how do I, is there a reference that's like right at the edge of my brain that I can pull out that like makes me laugh because I haven't thought about I don't know, for purposes of this podcast, the Blizzard game Blackthorn in, 15 years. Where you could shoot the shotgun behind your head.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's a video game. I know that.
It's a video game, yeah. And just sort of like take pleasure in the sort of like precision of it. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of pleasure in the process for me at this point, which is not necessarily true for me of like all forms of writing. I find fiction very stressful unless I can kind of like work my way into that same sort of mindset of like, what can I do just to kind of like delight myself.
I think writing for yourself, speaking as someone that mostly writes for himself from a design point of view, like there's something much more authentic about writing something that you find interesting yourself or that you find entertaining rather than developing something that you feel like is going to be resonant with other people necessarily. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yes, maybe people will find this resonant because they're interested in the same things that I'm writing about, but I'm writing it because these are the things that I want to be working on. And I think that comes through in your writing in a big way.
How do you, when you are doing that, how do you sort of find those threads and like pull on them for yourself?
That's a good question.
Thank you. The hunter.
This is something I have a lot of, while you're thinking, Brendan, this is something I have a lot of trouble with, which is like, when is it good? Is a like question that I took, first of all, it took me a long time to be able to like consistently answer. And then, because like I would make something like, early games, hobby projects or whatever, and I'd show it to people, be like, oh, cool, this is nice. And like, all right, well, sometimes you're being polite or whatever, but I had a lack of confidence that it took a long time for me to like rebuild sort of. And I feel like that is a similar kind of arc with, you writing for yourself in your process, maybe.
I think, and this is me like actively working through the problem, so forgive me if I stumble through it a little bit, but I think one of the things is when I am reading a work, I've come to really, really appreciate when when a sentence on the page gives me a bunch of information, but sparks a bunch of other possible information that it doesn't necessarily have to write, or that it can gesture at, but it doesn't have to explicitly say, you know what I mean? And so I'm been looking at Mythic Bastionland a fair bit right now, and I think that's a really, really tightly written adventure system that does a good job of like giving you a sense of like, this is what the world is in a relatively constrained set of letters in a specific order that allows you to extrapolate from that. Oh, well, if that is true, then this must be true, and this could be true, and this could be true. That lets you build the world of that game, both in terms of the fiction and in terms of the systems at your table. So that's a thing that I like, right?
I'm curious where that, like, how you see that showing up in, like, systems and mechanics. Because I feel like, the go-to example with sort of, like, gesturing at, like, big, wide world full of, like, richness is, like, Dark Souls item descriptions.
Sure, yeah.
And, in FROMSOFT games, in a lot of cases, there is some kind of, like, esotericism built into the systems as well that kind of imply, like, that there's a breadth and depth beyond what's just sort of readily available to the player. But I'm curious about kind of other forms of narrative bigness through systems.
Sure. I think, the Powered by the Apocalypse, like, mixed success is a big example of this sort of thing, right? Where, like, you get what you want at a cost. Or you get what you want, but there's a consequence or something like that. And, like, I think the book does a really good job of, PBTA. I think it's getting a third edition at this point, and lots of other people have riffed on this in exciting ways. So I'm conflating both the core system and a lot of the stuff that's it's inspired, but where it gives you like the possibility space of you're going to get what you want, but you take an injury or you have to spend a resource or something breaks in the process or something like that. And it gives you a bunch of examples like that, but it also says like, or it could be something else, or something else dastardly that happens that the book can't account for, but you and the GM can lock eyes on and realize, oh no, that's the perfect thing to have happen here that would make this suitably tragic. Like, I think stuff like that does a good job of gesturing at a wider set of possibilities without having to list out like everything that could possibly happen in circumstances like that.
One different way of doing this that I like in board games, and thinking of some leader games like Oath and Arcs and Twilight Imperium as well, or which is not a leader
Let's
game,
fucking go! Let's get into it!
The style of like, here's a card and it's like it's a guy with a gun and it's, like assassin card, but there's not specifically flavor text on there, right? Or it's a TI law card, and it has a little bit of like, it has a mechanical effect because that's the purpose of it, but it has like a flavorful name and some art. But that has like, here's a title here's like the name of the card, and that's all the words there, and it's doing a lot of heavy lifting just using the mechanical effect without the Magic the Gathering style or Dark Souls style flavor text that is like the keyhole window into the world kind of thing, which I like. I mean, I like both just fine. But that, I don't know, strikes me as an entry in your big world with small tools kind of idea. Also, yes, you like TI.
I love TI. I'll just press the big button. I am the TI liker and the TI defender. And like part of it is like, one of the differentiating factors between Arcs and TI for me, and Arcs is a game that I really like, but Twilight Imperium has so much damn lore, and there's like so many proper nouns that I think have books? A really there are. I don't care of those. There's a RPG system too. There's a TTRPG system. Oh wow. Yeah. That is either
you're not running for this for us all the time.
I mean, for me, the juice is making plastic spaceships fight and like talking shit at the table. Like it's not in and of itself a world that I am so excited by that I want to sort of explore all the corners of it or like tell stories within it. But I think it is a really fun, juicy narrative wrapper on a set of game systems that I really enjoy. Whereas Arcs has like gorgeous art and some like fun, evocative naming, but very little in the way of sort of lore or narrative packaging. I think the Legacy campaign has a little more, but I haven't played that version of it.
So what in your you're sitting down at a very large table with the TI laid out in front of you. It's the best day of your life, obviously. Yeah. What about I'm excited to become
very mad at all of my friends. Yeah.
That's you're about to lose and then remake your friends over the course of the next hours. What about the lore what is the lore doing for you in that moment? And this is, to be clear, this is not a like the lore has to be present at the table kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you're speaking to the difference between Arcs and TI as a very much a like there are paragraphs of silly names and fake history. How does that like enhance the at the table experience?
I think it shoots off in a lot of different directions. I mean, some of it is like, I think TI has done a good job of sort of making each of the different, galactic factions that you are playing feel distinctive from one another and feel expressive, feel like they're sort of capabilities and units and mechanics are like internally coherent and sort of expressive of a certain play style that's representative of either being, like a psychic snake lady hive mind or a, techno-organic virus or a like race of failed clones of one guy. And so, it's not a game that encourages like role playing necessarily, though you certainly could, and that would be a very interesting way of playing it out. But you end up with sort of like narrativized moments as, the like the race whose whole thing is building and deploying like planet destroying Death Stars has their like premier planet destroying Death Star destroyed by, a bunch of little baby fighters piloted by psychic snake women. It tees up a lot of like jokes and riffing and trash talk that's kind of like pulled from that kind of lore. I think it like, for as like lengthy and involving of a game that Twilight Imperium is, with games running like 6, 8, 10 hours, it's also a like extremely goofy, swingy, and kind of unserious game. Like, I think it's, for a lot of people synonymous with like, big scare quotes like Ameritrash. Like, there's a lot of luck of the draw. There's a lot of just like very stupid, very goofy outcomes where you pull an agenda card and roll a d10, and it is you have a 50-50 chance of either like everyone getting to research like crucial technologies or the entire middle of the board explodes and somebody's game just gets torpedoed. And I think like having that space opera packaging around it where you have, extra dimensional demons and like wormhole ghosts just sort of cues you that like this is a goofy ass game, and like for as much time as you're going to sink into it, at the end of the day it's about making spaceships like blow each other up. And I don't know, maybe it's just like spaceships light up my brain in a way that like
yes.
setting up like postal routes in, Teutonic Germany just doesn't. And like you could maybe take the exact same game mechanics and like, make it about like space mail, and I might like light up a little more. I'm very childish in this way.
I think everybody who plays board games and I don't know, plays, I guess probably just games in general, let's say genre games for lack of a better term, you can be as arbitrary as you want with like, I don't, like, oh, this time traveling bus route game, that's fun, but I'm going to go to space and do that. And
yet, like something like Sidereal Confluence, which is just like a game that I wish I liked more than I do, like has a sci-fi packaging, has some like, loose lore flavor to it, but is just like too much about like turning cubes into cylinders without a kind of like narrative thrust to it for me to really like.
They're more octagon towers and not cylinders, but it's fine. We'll play soon.
Well, see, this is why I'm not competitive in the marketplace of cylinders
ideas. Yeah, I mean it's funny because Sidereal has all the lore stuff. It has all the unique alien species, and it has an expansion that I think doubles or triples the amount of alien species in the game. But it does not have spaceships and dramatic die rolls, or it doesn't have as many. I don't know. Actually, that's not true. I was going to say it doesn't have as many like touch points of lore meeting lore, where a little like bit of story could come out. But I think it does. It's just, oh, your cube conversion has this specific rule to it that interacts with my cube conversion, or cube 2, ultra tech or whatever.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, Twilight Imperium is getting to, like, play out a space opera, and that just, like, hits for me in a way that more restrained and maybe kind of, like, mechanically polished and focused games with the same aesthetic packaging just, like, don't quite reach those, like, high heights and low lows.
Do you think that lore thinking, have you like incorporated that into like the hot streak lore, which is a very silly game that is aesthetically pleasing and but has pages and pages of lore about goofy weirdos?
I mean, I think that is, I'm hoping, kind of my like entry point into more sprawling, expansive lore. I mean, Alex Haig at CMYK and I think both share a dream at some point to have a like extremely like simple, trick-taking game, or some kind of like very straightforward like card or dice game that has a rule book that is like 5 pages of rules and 30 pages of lore, just as a bit. But writing lore for Hot Streak, which is the mascot racing betting game that Brendan mentioned in the intro. There's 4 mascots who race each race. There's Mum, Gobbler, Dangle, and oh no! Have I forgotten the 4th mascot? He's a bun banger. I know that.
Oh yeah, it's not a hot dog.
It's not a hot dog, which actually that was a disconnect between the marketing and the lore. Is that a lot of the marketing does refer to him as a hot dog. He's not a hot dog. He is a legally distinct meat tube product.
You can't have the hot dog copyright holders coming after you.
Is hot dog like aspirin or escalator, like one of those formerly branded words that became too publicly known to be a trademark?
So I read all of Jamie Loftus's book Raw Dog about hot dogs, and I do not remember. I don't think it is.
That's
I
fair.
don't think any one company has a claim on the term hot. I think it's one of those claims where it has like a few potential origins.
I've found the origin. This
please.
is
There's one origin.
The chili cheese dog were a type of food served at Dex's Diner on the planet Coruscant, due to the fact that they're considered delicious by the eatery's owner, Basilisk Dexter Jetster. The dish cost 5.5 credits and was served with a cup of soup as one of the lunch and dinner Pantoran plate options available
Chili dog and soup
on Tongs Day.
Wait, so Obi-Wan is friends with the inventor of the hot dog?
It seems that way. Now you might think, is it called the chili? That's spelled with an S? Cheese dog? Because it has some sort of thing that's like Star Wars chili on it.
Chili.
It's from the planet Chili. It's in the style of the planet Chili. That's why it's
yeah,
chili
like
sea
buffalo
dog.
wings. It's space buffalo.
That's right.
I bet Dexter Jetster could slam down a lot of dogs with 4 hands.
Does that mean that Kreia and Exar Kun never got to suck down a chili dog?
That's why they're like that. That's the main problem.
Darth Plagueis the Wise never
chili
pondered the
cheese
mysteries
dog.
of the Sith.
Would have saved the Great Hyperspace War. We could have averted so many millions dead.
Palpatine and Anakin at the opera, baseball caps backward on their heads, holding two dogs.
2 dogs apiece. You know those fellas were housing them.
It's the shot of Sheev smirking, but we just put a cheese dog like about to come home.
Onions, unlimited onions. Not a good Palpatine. I can do better. I can do
this is
better. I
comedy.
have to do better.
I'm still caught up on the soup thing. That's too...
You don't dip your
Opposing.
dogs in soup. They're in beautiful Chicago. You're not slopping up
No.
your depression dogs.
I don't want... Yeah, a depression dog doesn't come with, like, a side of bisque, though.
Shit, it
I mean,
should.
they could, maybe, but
Yeah,
they're not.
yeah.
Did you find Bunbanger's name? That's the only reason we're vampires.
I'm looking up the days of the week. Oh, you're talking to Sophie. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Yeah. No, I just let it go. My brain is full of... I had COVID 3 times last fall. My brain is just like, pockmarked at this point. But
we were talking about lore with lore with games, hot dog lore, Bunbanger.
Yeah, hot dog lore. Bunbanger lore. But I mean, yeah, with Hot Streak, like, I had the very loose tee up of, like, here are the broad strokes types of mascots we are thinking about having. Come up with elaborate backstories for them. And their backstories don't really touch each other's. They sort of exist in separate corners of the world. But getting to devise, as we've been saying, a very elaborate reason why there would be a, British style queen running at a, minor league sporting event, and coming up with the idea that maybe there was just like a town that never actually joined with the rest of the American Revolution, and kind of kept quiet about it until the heat blew over.
Kind of American Montreal, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Or that, there used to be a different mascot, but then a bear ate it, so then the bear became the mascot. And again, just kind of trying to amuse myself with, like, taking a really long walk for a really short drink of water. I mean, the other sort of, like, interconnected part of Hot Streak is that there's a player fate system. So at the end of the game, you've won a certain amount of money between, like, $0 and $100+, and there's a dedicated part of the rule book for you to look up your fate based on how much money you won. And those have connections between each other, recurring elements they sort of communicate with and, like, play on each other and create a little bit of a coherent world, if a sort of loosely coherent one.
And that's one entry per. It's 100 entries, right? It's not. It's not bands. That's great.
Yeah, I think it's 101, but I've never been good at inclusive sets and knowing how many are in them.
No,
0 to 100 plus inclusive.
This goes a little bit to what I was trying
Come on,
to get.
nerds. Help me.
Oh, do you see any nerds? Hang on. Do we actually get some nerds in here?
Craig.
That's right. This sort of gets at what I was got 80% of the way through answering before, of like how to write with that idea of like gesturing at a larger reality than necessarily the one that you put to paper, and what I've been trying to do is to try and get at that same level of, if I put down a sentence, do I feel like it's telling me more or gesturing it more beyond what is already there, or is it doing the opposite, which is to say, making things confusing and forcing me to write another sentence to explain what I mean by that. And so trying to find ways where I am being clear, but I am suggesting it a thing that that I can say exists, you know what I mean, without necessarily having to expand upon it in some way, like like implying the existence of an organization without explaining, oh, the organization is such and such, and it does this, and it has this many members, and that kind of thing. That sort of litmus test of like, can I say a thing that sparks possibilities that you might arrive at your table that are different than what I might have otherwise arrived at if I had been explicit about exactly what I meant in that moment. Which is also really convenient, because if you manage to get at that point, it saves you a lot of work, because then you don't have to write every single thing down.
That's why I do that.
Yeah.
I have never ever I as I mentioned, I guested on I came back for my second guest appearance on A Grain of Sanderson, a Brandon Sanderson podcast. First to discuss the tie-in novella he wrote for the game Infinity Blade, and then to discuss the tie-in novella for the game Infinity Blades 2 and 3.
We were going to talk about that, but I got sick. So A Grain of Sanderson actually scooped us on that.
Yeah,
we were going to talk all about that.
I read every
Really?
book, and then we didn't talk about it, which was really...
You want to talk about it? You want to chat?
No.
You want to chat about Cyrus and the Deathless and the God King Radriar?
I don't want to talk about it, but I do want to talk about how mad I am that I got scooped. That's all. That's it.
I mean, listen, you have the rare opportunity to have someone who is arguably the leading expert on Infinity Blade lore on right now.
I'm on friendly terms with the God King of whoever you just said, so I'd rather
Okay.
No, that's fine.
Anyway,
whatever.
you were on the show.
I was on the show, and I cannot put myself in the headspace of a writer or author who would devise a whole like lore Bible off to the side to like undergird a work of fiction, rather than just like put words on the page in front of yourself and be like, that seems cool, moving on. I just like, I think it's laziness on my part, and also just like the way that my like creative brain works is that like I would way rather just kind of like throw some spaghetti on the wall and sort of do some like spaghetti divination based on the like vibe of the shape that it's created, rather than like come up with a whole internally coherent system that I am then sort of drawing from to create my fiction. And I think there's like pros and cons to that approach. Yeah.
I find that I bounce back and forth between the two pretty frequently. Like, I definitely used to be a lot more like, okay, I need to get all my ducks in a row before I start producing things. And that led to a lot of time spent getting ducks in a row and not a lot of time producing things. And
yeah.
I've gotten a lot more in the habit, I think, of just opening up the layout, even assuming that it's not going to be the final layout, but just like treating it as if I am writing the real book, and just starting to write in that way and see what generates from that. But then if I do get some stuff that I like, then taking that and putting it in an ideas scratch doc or something like that and saying, okay, here's some stuff that I put together that I hadn't anticipated, but that seems to have all worked. That way, at least I've got like a place where I keep all my notes of like, oh, okay, this exists now. This is a thing this is a term that I came up with that I want to continue to reuse, that kind of thing.
The way I sort of approach that, because I also write in this style, which is like very vague and evocative or whatever. I do a lot of preparation with themes basically, which is like, okay, what is like this game about? And that's like something that really is never like directly told to anyone that's not working on the game. And so when it's like, these are like the core themes, these are like the ideas I want to kind of figure out, and this is like what the game is doing and how the game kind of reflects those themes. And so when it gets to then writing, it's less about, oh, here is like the world, and here is how like the world is working X, Y, and Z ways, and like whatever. It's more like the way I see it is like each bit of writing is like a window for the player to like see a part of the theme with. And so they are all sort of like coherent with one another. It's not just like completely random things, but I never draw the line in between those. I never draw like lore line in between all of the words. It's all kind of coherent from a different angle, I suppose.
Right.
And it's also just, it saves on a lot of work, but it's also more interesting because I don't know, it seems like it's a lot of fun to make a world Bible, and that's why you get caught up doing it, but I also have to make a game.
Well,
like
the thing is, I what I thought you were going to say is, as the player, it's really fun to draw those connections. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
literally the fun of seeing the Dark Souls items connections and go, oh, I saw that name before. These things are connected. Like, that's gameplay.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, like making those connections, but also just sort of like the juxtapositions that occur through kind of like randomness and like the order that you happen to encounter things in. One of the things that was sort of cool and exciting about Elden Ring, I think in particular, though there's some of this in Dark Souls 1 with all the sort of like Dark Sun, Gwendolyn stuff, is that like you get different perspectives and different accounts in those item descriptions and in that lore, and they start to contradict each other or sort of like offer sort of different versions of the same information. And I have a little bird brain, and I just believe whatever was last said to me. And so it's sort of like fun and exciting for me to like happen across items and read the descriptions and be like, oh wait, that is actually a detail that like contradicts a detail that was told to me previously, and now I'm like sitting with both these things, and there's all kinds of different sort of like narrative accounts I could spin out of that. But some of it just has to do with like, I happened to get, item A before I got item B, and like lend one more credibility than the other just by virtue of like how the path I happen to take through the game.
Right.
I mean, it just feels it is more, it's more fun for the player if their expectation is to receive that kind of thing, right? Because if you just don't want to do that, then you don't want to do it, and you can't avoid a player refusing to do that.
What do you mean?
Oh, just in like, I think some people, it's probably less so now because we are in the second decade of Souls-likes.
Oh, you mean like players that don't want to draw those connections?
Yeah, or not even like they don't want to draw it, but they are frustrated by the lack of a story in Dark Souls. When a story to them is, a 3D model like talking to you about the dragons down.
I'm Commander
down
Shepard.
The tower. He's
There's a dragon down there.
But it's not Keith. If Keith David isn't telling it to me, I just do not fucking hear it, and I don't want to talk about it.
Got it.
Yeah. But like, I mean, I don't know how hot of a take this is, but like, a lot of Souls games are detective stories for the player, at least in one way or another. That like, you are following, like, the gameplay doesn't necessarily sort of line up with this, but like you are pulling together a narrative that has already taken place. And to a certain extent, you are an active participant in that narrative, or in the sort of like ripple effect of that narrative. You are sort of like following in the wake of events and encountering the sort of people connected to the threads of information that you're following. And I think that like one of the things that's really fun with the detective genre and like detective noir is like the different ways that they play with sort of the narrative separation between like past and present, with, you know, stuff like Sherlock Holmes being almost entirely like, you know, a reconstruction of past events through observation in the present. And, you know, stuff like the more hard-boiled noirs and like neo-noirs having that narrative past sort of colliding with the present and vice versa, usually resulting in, you know, the detective getting beat up a bunch, which is maybe like appropriate for the Dark Souls genre.
Right.
The Dark Souls genre, as we now know it.
That's a really insightful observation. Like, I think the idea of a Dark Souls game from the Dark Souls genre being something where you, the detective, have like stumbled into some great crime having been committed, and basically having to get beat up from place to place as you try and put information together about what on earth happened here and what you're going to do about it, is really interesting.
I mean, it also, there's an element of my like beloved, you know, John le Carré novels there too, you know, like,
who's the Smiley of the
Taylor
Dark Souls
Soldiers-
world?
Who is the Smiley of the Dark Souls world? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Is it the Onion Knight? No, I
don't know
so.
enough Dark Souls guys to be able to like confidently.
Yeah, who are
unfortunate.
the guys?
That's a
There's
question.
Upper Snake, Lower Snake,
There's Despondent Warrior.
Despondent Warrior. There's Patches.
There's Girl that gives you level ups.
There's your wife.
I mean, we all know George Smiley is a stomp jumperson, but we can go further.
Well, okay, this is easy. Let's go the other way around. What do we know about George
He's like-
Smiley? Loves his wife.
Okay.
Is being
Loves
cucked
his
constantly.
wife.
to for better and mostly worse.
Yeah. Is being cucked constantly. Wears a nondescript coat.
Yep.
Reads his newspaper at the club.
Kind of sad.
Kind
Mostly
of
sad.
sad.
Usually being rained on.
Yeah. Faster than you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
Knows a lot of fellas.
That was a lot of fellas.
Knows a lot of fellas. I think has fucked but does not fuck.
Yep. Has retired from fucking.
Yeah. Oh,
Has
When,
retired from
when
fucking.
Control retired from fucking, Smiley also retired from fucking.
That's right. Yeah, Smiley's coming with me.
I mean, should we end the show right there? That'd be a funny, just like hard cut.
No, I have so much to say. Oh wait. Who's the guy with eyes inside his head in Bloodborne? At Bergenworth.
Oh, Bergenworth guy. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Bergenworth guy is absolutely
Yeah.
Smiley.
Yeah. He's
I'm just
sitting in a
googling
chair.
Bergenworth guy. Master Willem.
Yeah.
He's sitting on his little
Sorry,
chair.
sorry about. Smiley gained too much secret knowledge of the glyphs
Yeah.
of the formless Oedon.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I like to maybe slightly steer this back. I like the detective.
Do you feel like we're off track?
I mean, no, please. You know what? Never mind. I'm kidding.
No, please help me.
What was that?
I think Peter Willem is Lawrence. I think he wanders around
Peter Gillam. Yeah.
with the wheel busting up vampires.
He's kind of dashing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you can put us on track now that I said my good joke.
Control, of course, is what's his face? The final hunter.
Oh,
in the wheelchair
German.
in the nightmare.
German.
Yeah, Gehrman.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep. Oh, and then Preto and Hayden are Father Gascon and
yes,
his buddy. Who was his buddy's name? What was his buddy's name? There were two of them. They were inseparable. You can do it.
I can't do it.
Don't go
Just
to
go to
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Go to Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
Look up Father Gascoigne on Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, as we all know, was like the Aleph of the internet.
Henrik.
Which it contains.
Henrik was his guy.
Henrik.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, Hayden is Gascon and Henrik is Preto.
Who's Ricky? Who's Ricky Tar in this situation?
I was literally going to
who's
say
Ricky
who's
Tar?
Ricky Tar. Ricky Tar is
Oh,
just in there. He's the main character.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
you
you're
play
right.
as Ricky
You're
Tar.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Oh no, Ricky Tar is the guy who you talk to who becomes a little werewolf critter. He's in the window. He doesn't want to come out.
Oh. That's too bad for him. That's too bad for Rick. I mean, that is what happened to Ricky,
Fuck to
unfortunately.
George R. R. Martin. We should have got John le Carré while we could to write
Yeah.
Bloodborne 2.
Yeah, John le Carré write Armored Souls 7.
When will John le Carré finish Song of Ice and Fire? This is what people want to know.
When will Brandon Sanderson finish Smiley's saga?
Never in a
I
million
cannot
years.
imagine anything worse.
I'll go on Grain of Sanderson for that.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh god. I mean, look, give me fantasy spy books. My god.
Those
I would love
definitely
it.
exist. Those exist.
Oh, I'm sure.
surely.
I'm sure. There's some spy stuff in the Black Company books. But I don't know. I make everything spy novels. I mean, Saint of Bright Doors had some DNA in it. Yeah.
It's on my list.
I've only started that, so I couldn't speak to the rest of it.
It sort of rapid fires between genres in a way that I found really exciting.
Does some spy fiction has the all of it already happened before the book started of detective stuff, but it kind of goes back and forth in a fun way. I'm just kind of turning over your Dark Souls to detective comparison. I do really like it. I don't think I have anything.
Yeah, a spy situation feels more like there's something ongoing right now that needs to be dealt with, right?
Yeah, it's more of a thriller, whereas detective stuff can be a thriller, but it also could just be
whodunit.
Watching your smart guy wander around. Yeah.
Well, just to keep talking about my comfort media, Authority, the second Southern Reach book by Jeff Vandermeer, which I am always banging the drum. I think is consciously a John le Carré riff. I think Vandermeer, like spy fiction, has tried to write it. I don't think has been successful with it, but I think Authority is the closest he gets. But that has a main character named Control who is trying to come in and make sense of this labyrinthine bureaucracy at a paranormal government agency that was left by his predecessor, who disappeared on one of the expeditions into the Area X zone, and that has the sort of format of an investigator who is being steadily sort of infected and warped by the conspiracy that he is immersing himself in, which I think like shares some FROMSOFT DNA, that like you are
Yeah.
being changed by this world that you are descending into, either in like, taking on the mantle of prophecy, or becoming, increasingly like blood crazed and deranged in the, hunter's nightmare. But that there is this sort of, I think, a lot of Souls games have the feeling of like infectious information. That like you are being, like the
I mean,
more
Bloodborne makes
you
that
know.
explicit with
Yeah,
with the with the fuck, not humanity, but the other thing they call
Insight.
it. Yeah, insight.
Insight.
Yeah, real stare into the abyss type stuff.
Yeah. And then like mechanically, what that cashes out in can really kind of vary, but often kind of boils down to just like a choice you make at the end of the game.
That's what I was
based
gonna
on-
say. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm not a I'm not big brained enough to have finished any of them except Elden Ring. But my kind of understanding is 95% of the story is like done when you show up, and then you like get your ass beat a million times over, and then you press a button, and that's like obviously reducing it dramatically, but it does seem like it's the inversion of the Mass Effect where two things happen before you wandered in, and then
Right.
God's favorite boy goes around, does everything to move the story forward, and then you kill God at the end. And I don't know. I think I just prefer the having all the interesting stuff having already happened kind of thing. Even if the just pressing the button, I don't know, it's maybe is a little underwhelming, but that's not really the point either.
I mean, not to bring up like a blighted word, but like I think, there's something kind of like cozy about sort of existing with all the narrative already kind of behind you, or like the narrative having taken place in the narrative past. Like, the armchair detective part of the pleasure of it is that it's just epistemology. It's just sort of putting the pieces together, but there's no risk that like the past will sort of reach in and threaten the present.
Hey, that's interesting. I would almost expect the opposite, where like, and I guess we're just using Mass Effect as the like, uh, the counter example, but everything is under your control in Mass Effect, and in a Souls game or whatever, you there's a big risk of you just never find out what happened, and,
Yeah.
and not even like. It's not even that there is a solution. Like you can look at every piece of text in the game and definitely not, be able to 100% answer what happened. And I would guess that is more tension inducing to people than here's the story. Here's your customized Star Trek, movie that
Yeah.
you can.
The
you have a
story is
hand in at every
unavoidable
point.
because it's you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I think Bloodborne in particular, like particularly that choice at the end, which is not the only path that you can take in order to get to the endings, but is certainly like very deliberately, I think, an underwhelming or maybe even a sort of a coded "but thou must" kind of thing, because one of the choices basically ends the game prematurely, and the other one gives you a final boss fight. And so like. I think there's something to the theme of Bloodborne about, like, what did you think was going to happen when you got here? There's nothing that you can do to change what has already happened. And the things that are happening are almost too big for you to do anything about, unless you paid attention to every single thing away along the way and did these specific things and ate these specific little MacGuffins.
You had 3 snacks.
You had 3 snacks along the way.
Delicious jerky snacks.
And even that is not a good ending, but it is a different transformative ending for you personally.
Yeah.
as opposed to you transforming the world. Like, the world is too big for you
Right.
to transform.
Right. There is like an ending of a cycle rather than like a changing of the world.
Right. And a changing of self
Yeah.
in regards to what you have learned, what insight you have gathered, and how you see yourself fitting into that cycle goes forward. If anything, I wish there
think
was
it's-
more. Sorry. If anything, I wish there was more faction-based kind of alternatives, given the interesting places the different factions can go in Bloodborne, that felt more like the scope of an Elden Ring or something like that, which is completely faction-based, where it's like 8 different endings, all of them tied to a faction. Anyway, I'm sorry. You're
So
saying
that also is like very limited in sort of its scope or impact. It's, I mean, I would love if there was like, you know, insane new game plus Elden Ring where based on your ending that you choose, you enter, you know, one of like 5 different, you know, World of Ruin settings
Sure, yeah.
where like, you know, you've remade the world based on, you know, your choice, and you're now a character kind of like stepping into the consequences of that choice.
right. Like, this faction is now ascendant because of the choices you made, as opposed to
Right.
your playthrough where this other faction is ascendant, etc., etc. Like, it's always bad,
Yeah.
but it is different in noticeable ways. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Like, you know,
I would almost prefer one of these with like no decisions for the player whatsoever. Like, you just go through, you collect everything, and then you try and like figure out what happened at the end, and there's no affecting the world. Because I struggled greatly with Elden Ring, and I think all of them that I've played, where it's like, well, okay, I'm being asked to do something, but I don't know what this means exactly. And I know I'm not like supposed to, but I like really don't know what it means. And so
Well-
I'd rather the game like kind of structurally say, none of it matters. What you do doesn't matter. You're just killing guys. And then I can like focus my efforts on like, okay, well, this bit of lore means that, and that bit of lore, you know, that would mean this, that, and the other, etc.
can I tell you about a game called The Outer Wilds?
That's
In-
that is
in
I think
which-
exactly what I'm describing. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
but if
I
the
think-
Outer Wilds has some like sick combat, then I think that would be my idea.
I can't offer you sick combat, but I can offer you frustratingly difficult platforming.
Let's go.
But I think that is a game sort of about your own, like, at a certain point, like your own impotence in the face of the cycle and the sort of like ending of the cycle that you're arriving at. And I think like, kind of leading you gently into making your peace with that, and also sort of recognizing the way that like your playing through of the game is a form of sort of harmonization with and reconciliation to that cycle and that ending, such that when you kind of finally get there, you have both like all of the information that you need and all of, you know, you've come to a certain emotional place over time where like the information has changed you, but not necessarily in a, you know, mechanical way. Like your character model hasn't changed, you know,
And
like
not necessarily in a
yeah.
world-changing way either.
No, not in a world-changing way, but in a way that I think kind of like, you know, bleeds out of the game space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sort of if you're thinking about it in terms of a detective story, it is not necessarily a story where the whodunit of it all does not lead to justice, but it does lead to satisfaction in a way.
Yeah, it's opposite Chinatown.
Opposite Chinatown, The Long Goodbye.
That's right. Outer Wilds feels like learning the rules to like the laws of physics almost, right? You just, it's all like you can't change what's happening. It just is, and you're just trying to figure out what it is exactly. in like a way. Well, you're giggling about
Sorry,
Bops at Chinatown, aren't
no,
you?
I'm thinking of, why was it Chinatown a time loop game?
Chinatown Elsinore.
Chinatown roguelike. Chinatown Elsinore.
Jack Nicholson should have been able to die and respawn at the start of the adventure. Someone make that.
Just with a more and more destroyed nose.
Exactly. Hang on,
Yeah.
I'm putting this in my list of good ideas.
Yeah, mail that one to yourself.
TM. If you say an idea on a podcast, no one can steal it from you.
That's right. That's right.
Sophie, do you have?
Yeah?
Where can people find you on the internet? Do you have something you want to plug besides everything we already talked about?
Yeah. Let's see. You can find me on Instagram at soph.abromowitz. You can find my portfolio site at sophieabromowitz.cargo.site. I am a frequent creative partner for CMYK Games, so you can check out Hot Streak there. Spots, also a John Perry game that I worked on, our forthcoming reissue of Monikers. Keep an eye out also for a overhaul reissue that I worked on of Magical Athlete, the cult hit Richard Garfield game. And you can check out my story, Jan is Important, at Joyland Magazine. It's one of my favorite things that I've written. It is a very unhinged story about two women who become obsessed with each other in the context of community theater. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Oh, my total pleasure. Thank you for having me.